The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. Wealth Builders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Welcome to episode 229 of Wealth Talk. My name is Christian Rodwell, and this week I'm not joined by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan, because he is swinging some clubs on the golf courses over in Florida, a well-deserved rest and a bit of sunshine at the start of 2024. So I'm picking up the reins for this week's episode, and we're carrying on. Actually, it's part 2. Where we left off last week in episode 228, which was an interview between Wealth Builders founder Kevin and action coach Mr. James Vincent. So if you haven't heard part 1, then press stop now, go back, listen to last week's episode. It was absolutely fantastic. And last week, Kevin talked about family wealth. He talked about the fact that our children will most likely go on to live until they're 100 years old. And as parents, we must start including children in discussions about money as early as possible. And of course, he touched on recurring income, the difference between work income and asset income. And if you truly want to be financially secure, financially independent, you have got to begin building multiple streams of recurring income to give you that security. All right. So lots of interesting stuff there last week. Today, we're carrying on, and Kevin is talking today about the 4 entrepreneurial assets which you can use to generate that recurring income, as well as talking about trusts and the different types of trust which you can use to protect your wealth. All right. So make sure you stay tuned all the way until the end, because Kevin talks about some advanced wealth building strategies in this interview, which involve leveraging assets which you almost certainly have within your life right now. So don't forget, if you're looking for support to help you build your own recurring income streams, then do head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership to find out more about how we can help you. All right, then let's resume the interview between Kevin Whelan and James Vincent.
So in the house then, in the pension and in the investments they've got, everything is under par. Everything is underperforming. And as a result, no chance of becoming financially independent. Financially independent then is having enough recurring income to live the life that you want without compromise, whatever that figure is. So let's pick a number for the sake of it. All right. If the average income is 15 grand, but most people in my community I talk to would like 100 grand.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a gap.
£8,000 a month.
That's a hell of a gap, right? So how do you bridge that gap? Well, you have to learn what the other assets are.
How to move this.
How to move that, number 1. Number 2, what are the other assets? Because you can't build wealth in your home, your pension, your investments unless you do something. Well, most people delegate that money. Right? The house, not moving, pension, somebody else has got it. The investments, an institution has got it. The 4 ways that you can be a value creator.
Right, go on.
Someone who's adding value, which means you've got to learn something, which means that you've got to be educated, which means you've got to be open-minded to being supported so that you can't learn it on your own.
This is a value creator.
Value creator.
Yeah.
And there are 4 ways to do that. So if we've gone 1, 2, 3, can't work. 4, 5, 6, 7 are the ones to come. Number 4 is a portfolio of property. So instead of having a property you live in, you have property which you own or control. You don't have to own them.
Yeah.
You can control property. Won't get into that. It's much too complex.
It's the one that most people get. They understand it.
They understand it, and they like bricks and mortar in this country, and who doesn't? You
Yeah.
know, we're in an island after all. So they get that. But there are at least 20 property strategies. Most people know one, which is they buy a flat round the corner or they buy a house round the corner.
True.
You know, and they get a 5 or 6%. Nothing wrong with that, but it's underperforming. It's just understanding how do you do better than that, and there are so many ways to do that. But building a portfolio of property is no longer then trading time for money. You get an income in exchange, which is called rental income or license income or some other form of income. But anyway, you can measure it, you can count it, and you can stick it in your bank. And if you're not around,
you can make money
it's
while
still
you
there.
sleep.
The next one after that then is a business that works without you. Not a business you're in, but and you know this more than most people, of course. You know, you're a convert to that. And I talk in the book, The Wealth Coach, about the different ways you can create recurring income inside your business But you can also create recurring income outside of your business. So if you've got a business that creates recurring income, it means you've got a supply of regular income, contractual, wherever possible, that you're generating streams and flows of contractual or relationship-based income, but the relationship no longer depends on you. You don't have to be the person who shows up. You don't have to be the person who smiles and greets anybody. The income is flowing. And that comes from auto delivery of product, auto delivery of service, some kind of membership or subscription, and what I call a gateway.
Getting the team to run the business.
And getting the team to run the business. And there are some very fascinating ways now you can get the team to run the business, and you can basically sell that to the business and get all the money out tax-free. So lots of different ways to get an exit strategy from that, which is another mistake that people make as well. But anyway, so now we're done 4, 5, 6 is intellectual property. IP for short, which is creating a flow of income from what's inside your head. How do you convert that? How do you repurpose that? How do you repackage that? Well, okay. What about J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, true.
Good flow, right?
Amazing flow.
Right? Now, not everybody's going to be J.K. Rowling, but you could franchise something, Brad Sugars. You could license something. You could create a training course that people buy automatically. And I do that. So part of what I do is create things for the own purposes of IP, but have other people run that and sell that and so on. And then the final one is joint ventures or collaborations.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, just to come back to your point about the flow of income from IP, here's the nicest way, because it sounds different. So all of this work income versus asset income, for those people who are, audio, work income sounds like work, get paid.
Yeah.
Right, 5 weeks of work. Whereas if you do the work from a recurring income point of view, you do the work and get paid. It sounds different.
Every so often you might need to redo the work for your training cost, update the IP.
But that's maintenance.
Yes.
That's not recreation. But the royalty income, that sounds good, doesn't it? Royalty. I mean, I like the sound of that. So royalty income from IP is a way to create an income flow. And then joint ventures and collaboration says, hey, somebody else has got a skill set and I've got a skill set. What if we combined the skill set? It doesn't have to be in a business. It could be in a project, like a property project or any project where there's a purpose for profit. And then you can either share the profit and then you take the money you make from profit and you bank that in another asset, or you co-own the project and you get a share of the recurring income. So they're the 7. So we've got
JVs, IP, businesses, property portfolio, home capacity, pensions and investments.
That's it. And most people don't have anywhere near enough to create that recurring income that will sustain them to be financially independent. And remember this one, financial independence for you, if done well, is financial independence for the next generation if you give them stewardship. If you just leave them money, they'll spend it because you don't give them knowledge. This wealth of the whole family
I feel like
is important.
Should we talk about trust? Family trust type thing?
It's tactical. I can talk about trusts. I mean, I'd rather be strategic.
Go on. Because
strategic means getting the big idea. Because as soon as you go deep, you can throw people off because they go, well, that's too complicated for me.
Right.
But the concept of trust is really easy, and it's really important to get it, because if you're building wealth, do you want to build it tax efficiently or tax inefficiently? Tax efficiently, right? Do you want to build it so it lasts if something goes wrong, or somebody can grab it off you if something goes wrong? The answers are really easy. Well, you do that through the use of trusts. So trust then is just a piece of bubble wrap or a box wrapped up in bubble wrap that is financially protected against tax, creditors, and legal, what would we call that? Litigation or something like that.
Okay, so it's protected against tax, litigation, and what else?
Creditors.
And credits, yeah.
Right. So nobody can get it. So if you owe somebody some money, they can't touch that, right? Somebody comes and sues you, can't touch that. Taxman, can't touch that. That's basically a trust. And there are many types of tactical trusts, but that's the concept of a trust. And the simple ones that every business owner should have, without doubt, I don't have to go I'm advising, I'm guiding here, is if you've got any form of life cover or pension, so pension, most people have got some, just fill out a form that says, if I die, this money goes directly to my spouse, directly to my partner, directly to my children. Do not pass go, just go straight there.
That's one of the first things that people should do. Having listened to this, I mean, surely.
And that's easy. It's just called an expression of wish. And what that does is it protects that money from tax and it pays the money straight away. Because I'll come on to this point about delays in a moment. The second would be, if you've got a pension, put that in trust. So life cover, put it in trust. Pension, put it in trust. And it's not complicated and doesn't cost any money. It's just a document and you tick a box and say, if anything happens, I want this money to go to. Okay? That's as simple as a trust is. Most people don't do that. So when something happens...
How much does it cost to set a trust up?
Nothing. Those two trusts, nothing. Nothing at all. It's a tick box.
Really?
It's a really tick box. I'm not kidding you. It's a tick box. Think about life cover, right? Most people who are young, got a family, got a mortgage, probably got some life cover. Right? Where did they buy it? They bought it online, so there's no trust document. They were sold it. The salesman's too lazy. There's no trust document. Now, some will do a proper job, but the trust document invariably isn't there because I see them because I've got an advisory firm where that's the first thing we do, is we call it putting the roof on your plan, making sure you are legally watertight.
Right.
Putting the roof on your plan. There are a few more things beyond that, but those two are so simple. But do you know that there's like 27 billion. Now, whatever number I'm going to share with you, that's a big number, right?
Yeah.
Lost and forgotten pensions.
27 billion.
27 billion, not million. Billion. That's people who used to work for a company but don't work there anymore.
That's how many pounds have been lost?
Yeah. They moved house. Told the doctor, told the dentist, told the optician, didn't tell the pension company. 27 billion. And a lot of women who do get married and leave their old pensions behind. Who profits from that? The financial services industry profit from that. And yet it could easily be solved by just keeping on top of those things. So simple things. And we've got clients we've helped find 100,000. The biggest single pot was just over £100,000 because they wouldn't do that. Said, no, hold on. You worked there for 10 years. You've got something.
Go and find out.
Yeah.
Go make a phone call.
Yeah. And come back to me. Let me know what happened. Embarrassed. 100 grand. I'll live with the embarrassment.
Yeah.
It's 100 grand. You know,
no
somebody
judgment.
else 50 grand, somebody else 5 grand, somebody else nothing. Because it means you're doing something and participating, which is one of my principles, participation. You're participating in your own wealth. You're not delegating it and handing it off to a third party at every opportunity.
Now, talk to us about SSAS as well.
Okay. It's a trust. Yeah. Pensions are talked about. Most people don't know what they're doing and they're just hoping for the best. They get a statement, wish it were better, and put it back in the drawer again. Well organized, very neat, but in a filing cabinet, not doing anything. A SSAS, or complicated language, but that's life, small self-administered scheme, is one of the trust funds that all business owners should know. Because if you've got a limited company, uniquely for limited company owners, you can have one, which means instead of giving the money to the insurance company to put in the stock market and you hope for the best, you put the money in your own trust fund and it's managed, but you choose where it goes. So let's go back to the pillars.
Buy a property.
Yes. Invest in your business. Yes. Invest in IP. Yes. Invest in JVs. Yes. Whatever you want to do
you can
to build your wealth, the answer is yes. But most people don't do that.
How long
because they don't know.
What's the process that people have to go through to do a SSAS?
1, have a limited company. 2, care enough to make a phone call. Right? 3, we applied to the Inland Revenue in 4 months is done. And in that 4 months, we're teaching people what
to do with the
money. What to do with the money. What do you, not we're doing it. What do you want to do? Yes. It's your money. What do you want to do? Do you want to build a property portfolio? Yes or no? Do you want to invest in the stock market but remove advisor fees? Do you want to buy gold? Gold isn't an asset, by the way, because it doesn't put recurring income in your life. It's a hedge. Right. So there's a difference between a hedge and an asset. You can lend 50% of the money in your pension to your own business. Why would anybody do that? They don't want to borrow the money from somebody else. They want to be a bank to themselves. How many businesses during COVID would have been grateful for a loan from their own company and then pay that money back? So they're lending money from themselves. So they're being bank of self. which is really what building family wealth is all about. It's the wealth of the Whelan family, the wealth of the Jones family, the wealth of any
That's what
family.
Brad talks about. He says, naming it that, the wealth of the Whelan family, the wealth of the whatever your family's name is.
Yeah, we get the kids to help design logos. We call it a family wealth business.
It's good for ownership, that though, isn't it? As a family.
It is.
Everybody's involved. Yeah, everybody owns it.
Exactly. And, everybody, in the same way as joint ventures or a collaboration between the intellect of different people, usually at adult level, at a base level, you say to kids, look, we're creating even young kids, 7, 8, we're creating a little plan. We're going to have a little family crest. You got some ideas, and
the kids learn how to.
They see that, and then we're going to buy a property. Come and have a look at it. And while it's still
one of the best things you could do, really, for children, to teach them about the work income versus asset income, isn't it?
It is.
You learn by doing.
Yeah, well, you learn by all of this participation, really. And that's why I call it participation, because anything you can do, if you think about what's happening today, it's very, very curious, right? So for our children today, younger ones, and of course we've got to deal with age-appropriate content, whether expanding the age ranges.
Yeah.
But if you think about kids now who are, say, pre-teens, everything is invisible to them now. Think about that. Invisible. What mum and dad do? Don't know, don't see it. Right? Where did they get money from? Don't know, don't see it. When they want to get money, what do? They go tap. They go ping. They don't see it. So there's a complete breakdown of an understanding of where value is created and how value is paid for. So one of the principles that I share with my families...
Maybe it's getting... that the education is getting worse.
Education for...
understanding of finance and value.
The educate. I have a phrase for this one, and it wouldn't surprise you I have, that the educational system is setting up our children for failure. The education system that I'm planning and are just introduced, and we got our first cohort of 100 families just this week, right? Setting up children for life.
Maybe it can be 101 families. You can have my family as well.
Well, that's your call. But the point is, if you've got two choices, set for failure, set for life, you'd set them for life. And that sounds just twee, but it isn't. Because when you really understand that education is the best form of legacy, and there's no teacher teaching it, there's no school teaching it, no college teaching it, no university teaching it, no workplace teaching it. If somebody isn't influencing your children, who is? It's going to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'd rather be at the beginning, and it's taken me a long time to do it, but I've done it now, to make sure we've got families and create a movement of forward-thinking, intelligent parents who are learning how to put their own oxygen mask on first before they help theirs, irrespective of how old their kids are. Whether they're 7-year-old, 8-year-old, or like mine in their 20s, it doesn't matter. It's never too late, and it's never too early to involve your children in some kind of financial education. And while I believe in education, I'm a very powerful believer in the concept of education. I think it's just missing financial education. And with the children living to 100, it's got to be there, which is why I'm passionate about it. And by the way, the SAS, just so you know that, as soon as your children hit 18, they can join you as trustees. And we call it a SAS simulator. We give kids, not kids because they're 18, but tests like almost like Dragon's Den, right? So imagine you've got, you created a SAS, you found out about it anyway, you pushed the thing and somebody told you. And you go, that SAS is just a great idea. I'm going to invite my children because I want stewardship. So you say, okay, James, we've got this SAS here and it's a pot that's building and we're in control of that. Now, at some point, you're going to inherit this. It's going to be yours. If you had, whatever the figure is, £10,000 and you were going to make an investment and these are the 7 areas you could invest in, what would be your plan? Pitch it back to me, right? See what happens.
Teach them to pitch.
Teach them to pitch because you need presentation skills in your life. You need planning skills in your life. You need negotiation skills in your life. And if they're going to manage
money... That's where the learning happens, though.
It is. It's wonderful when it happens. I'll make one final point on this thing about children, if I may, which is there are many families who have children who will never, ever be able to be stewards of money. They'll have physical issues, mental issues, whatever issues. And I think there's an equally important reason that we as the pioneers, I'm talking to me and you, need to be the owners, because we need to register that if we've got children who can't look after themselves, we need to put in place the structures, the trusts, to make sure they are looked after. If they can't look after themselves, we need to do it for them.
For what reason would children not be able to look after money? Because of education, or are you thinking disability?
I've got clients with a blind daughter,
right,
who can't really manage things that well. Some people with autism, some people with a whole range of different conditions.
Got it.
You know, I'm not trying to pick on any individual
then
conditions.
You can set it up so there's rules that can take
Yeah,
place.
and the family members have a trust, and the trust makes sure that their financial needs are taken care of.
The point is, no matter what your situation, it can be done in some way.
It can be done as long as you do that.
As long as you take action. Move the needle on those 7 areas in some way. I mean, the beautiful thing on the 7 areas is each one, it can build up a little bit of wealth, can't it? If your goal is to get 20 grand in passive income, or 50 grand, or passive income,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, in recurring income.
Recurring income, yeah.
You can divide it over 7 areas. Each one can provide a little bit.
To avoid overwhelm, I don't try and encourage people to think about 7. I encourage them to note them down and go, what?
Do you start with 1 or 2? Or?
You ideally start with 2, because you can work on 2 at the same time.
Why 2?
Well, because my experience is if you give people too many things to think about,
true,
overwhelm sets in and they shut down.
Got it.
It's like the thermometer goes, can't deal with it. Can't deal with that. It's too many things. So 2 things. 2. If they've got busy jobs, busy businesses, a couple of things.
Do a lot of people take the property option in the UK?
Yes, they do. Yeah. The 2 most popular, pension and property. Yeah. Because they've got a pension anyway, so they best do a better job. And they like the idea of property. But it could be any combination.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having...
Is it release of money from pension put into property?
Can be. It can be release of money from savings into property. It can be release of money from the existing property that's owned and put into that. And that's another issue, you know, the difference between good debt and bad debt. It's often, you think going back to the children, you know, you often will hear things like never a lender or a borrower be. And there's a big difference between borrowing money for wealth building purposes, where you're making money on the difference between what you're borrowing, but you have to understand the difference. So if you're borrowing money at 1% and you're making 10%, that life looks easy. But if you're borrowing money at 8% and you're making 10%, you know, something goes wrong and all of a sudden, you know, you can get into difficulty. So there's a delicate balance to play.
How do you go about assessing all of that when you come to
brain?
CAT scan brain. You do all of that in 30 minutes?
No, not entirely, but enough to say these are the 2.
You've done it so much, you're processing everything,
and I've got
calculating
we've got a thing called an asset map.
Right.
It's like a mind map of somebody's finance. One of my team does that, and I look at the map, and in 30 minutes it's done. It's not really difficult to do at all. The issue,
it's all logical in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, and by the time you've understood what people like, there's a natural inclination for people to say, if you could choose any one of those, somebody's going to say, well, I think I like the idea of property, or I like the idea of, I'd like to know how I could turn my business into a stream of income, or I'd like to know what streams of income could come from other businesses. So, for example, if someone's a coach, instead of just coaching, trading time for money, they could coach for equity, or they could see another business and they could buy another business, and they could even buy another business with the profit that's already in the business. You know, there's all sorts of mechanisms where you can, remember I said earlier on with property, you can own or control.
Yeah.
Well, you can do the same with business. You can own or control a business without having to buy it.
Yeah.
And while these are more difficult strategies to learn, and you need to be in the right place to be able to learn them, they're all teachable, they're all absorbable, and we've got such a big community of people doing lots of things. As soon as someone says to me, hey, I'm really interested in property and I like the idea of, say, students, right, go and talk to these 3 people who are doing it in our community. So that connection shows people how possible it is, and even in some cases to say, yeah, I saw what Fred was doing with that property and I didn't like it. That's great, because that tells you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Now let's take another one. What about this? And there are so many clever ideas people are using. When creativity comes to bear on value creation, then that's when things get dramatically better. Because you're not limited by the state of a market. You're limited by your own creativity. And that's unlimited. If you see what I'm saying? There's no box around that.
Does someone need to be in a particular situation to start approaching this? Or can, irrespective of your situation right now, can you start to go and change the needle?
Everybody can do something about building their wealth, even if it's just immediately. Absolutely immediately. There's no
everybody can.
Everybody can.
Should everybody?
Well, one of the ways, if there's only one circumstance where I think it's more difficult, and that's when they've got more month left at the end of the money.
Right, got it. But that's a lot of people listening right now as well.
Well, if that's the case, then the process for there is a process we call debits, which is looking at everything that's going on in your life and plugging as many holes as you can. Because no matter how thinly you slice any argument, there's always two sides. So no matter what you're doing with your money, whatever you're spending, there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, there's better.
You're buying this, you could buy it cheaper.
Manage it.
You're using this, you could do it this way. You're spending this, you could stop that.
Manage the debits.
What I don't like is the idea of penny pinching. But debit stands for debt, education, bills, insurance, tax, and stock market fees. It's all of those things.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we do that. So we sit down and go, right, let's look at everything that's going on in your life and show you some ways to save money. Most people save about £1,000 when they do day one. It's about £1,000 day one is what they find on average, which, okay, but if you think about that as a seed and you make £1,000, that's now a seed you can plant in an asset. Or you could get an education that teaches you something, because education is the first asset which is sown in here. And so the reason why I say us as pioneers, we've got to be open-minded to planting our own seeds, because the tree won't come unless something gets planted somewhere. So you just got to start today. That's what I recommend. People won't do it, though, because they go, oh, yeah, I should do that. Like my dad, I should do that. I could do that, but I'm not going to do that because I'm too busy.
We'll get super clear on one thing very shortly. I've got some quick questions for you here. What's your favourite book that you've ever read? Business book?
I would say probably The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Stephen Covey?
Yeah, I think probably that one.
Favourite movie?
Favourite movie? Shawshank.
Oh, it's got to be, hasn't it? Number one, Shawshank.
Yeah.
Favourite holiday destination?
Well, I go somewhere different every 6 to 8 weeks. So just come back from Slovenia yesterday.
Living the dream. Slovenia.
Yeah.
It's bringing back memories. I used to go there every year.
Well, I love Slovenia. First time there, though, but that was great. So, but probably the best one I ever had was South Africa, when we did the Cape Town, and then we did the safari, and then went, across the garden route. That was
safari in South Africa.
That was classic. That was classic.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I'd have my hair back.
You can always get a wig.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm quite happy now with my sort of style.
Proud.
But there you go.
So be any superpower.
That's an interesting one. I'm not really sure. Just to be able to dispense wisdom more ably, I think.
Share wisdom more ably. That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Early bird or night owl?
I'm an early bird. Yeah, not as early as you. But I'm kind of up and at it at 7, looking at connections every morning. It's my LinkedIn and Facebook time. So I like to do that. Always looking for a new connection. Especially now, I'm looking for people who've got a real passion for financial literacy. And I'm finding them now, people who've got, I was talking to some woman, fascinating woman. She's got a child with autism, and it's like, you don't know what that's like. They've got to wear ear defenders when they go out. They're fidgeting, everything. They're never going to handle money in a traditional way. So you've got to create a new reality. I'm going, okay, there must be thousands of parents like that. How can we help those parents? So I'm always finding that connection to find another message that shapes it. So, and it's more about supporting those, because I've got an autistic nephew. He'll never look after himself. He's not going to be able to do that. He can manage a few quid and get on a bus and get off a bus, but he's never going to be able to buy a house and run a family. It's not going to happen. So the family have got to do that. All my brain is focused on families, nothing else. I don't do anything else anymore.
It's revolutionary, really.
Well, I'm looking for a movement. So if this resonates with anybody and they think, wow, I'd love to either get involved or help us grow it.
103.
Well, yeah.
104.
And then that will just keep growing. And then in the end, we'll have a conference of 2,000 people in a room with best practices of children talking about being, young entrepreneurs. Why not? I mean, where's entrepreneurship in school? But I've just talked about...
Preaching to the converted here.
Well, yeah, the pillars are all about entrepreneurialism, but they don't even know how to spell it at school these days. I mean, I'm being disrespectful. Teachers are doing a great job, by the way, and it's not their fault that the curriculum has been designed for a generation probably 2 steps back. Yeah, it's not designed for the current generation now.
If you could have one day in someone else's life, who would you choose?
I would choose somebody who's really powerfully impacting like a nation, something like that. It would have been someone like Mandela, but he's not around anymore. But that's probably what I would have chosen. Yeah, but just somebody who's just so impactful. You go, wow, how are you such a leader at that level? Mandela, yeah.
And
who interestingly said, it's only through education that you can really change a nation. And
no wonder you'd want to be here.
You know, I think that's a very powerful one, albeit I definitely would not have wanted to have gone through his experiences, but certainly he's a passionate educator and believed that it's education that changes countries, and I believe that to be the case as well.
There you go. Education can change a nation. You know,
I'm sure I'm paraphrasing, but somebody's got the quote somewhere.
Who've been your 3 biggest trusted advisors?
Well, one of the challenges, which is an interesting question, has really been the fact that when my dad died and I decided at 28 to become financially independent and design a life around that, I didn't have any. And if I could go back, I would seek them out. I think I was a bit too Superman for myself, and that's why it took me too long.
Seek out the advisors at a young age.
I would do, and even in life now, I think it's hard, isn't it? Often for men to give that chink of light that says, "Hey, I've got an openness," almost a mission of a weakness.
Speak for yourself on this one.
Yeah, and often that's the case. And I was that person at the beginning. And it was only later. So I think it wasn't really an advisor, but somebody. I was thinking long and hard about somebody in my team, and he was a Yorkshireman, and I was thinking really hard. His name was Brad, and I was going, not Brad Sugars, but So I was talking to this bloke, and I said, I can't get Brad to do this, and I wish I could get Brad to do that. He said, Kevin, get expletive rid. Do you think he's lying awake thinking about you? Get rid.
That's a good accent, that.
So the point being that sometimes you don't see things when you're in it, and you need somebody else who can step back. And now I seek that and try and build a community of similar guides, not gurus who think they know it all, but guides who say, yes, I have expertise in that and I'm willing to share that. Sometimes commercially, sometimes for free, but either way, I'm willing to share that. So I've found some great people subsequently, definitely.
And what's the first thing that people should do then once they've listened to this, in your opinion?
Take stock, right? Always do a stock take where you are, because that begins the process of moving you from, you call it moving the needle. I call it moving the thermometer, but it's exactly the same concept, right? So when most people take stock, we say to them, okay, imagine today work income stops. How much is going to come in automatically into your life? Work out what it is.
Yeah. For most people, it's going to be a big fat 0.
Most people, it's a big fat 0. Go, right, okay, your thermometer is the baseline. Great. Only ways up. Let's now...
How nice is that to look at it like that?
Now let's work out, how'd you get your first 100 a month?
Yeah.
How'd you get your first 500 a month? How'd you get your first 1,000 a month? And then work out what's the baby steps, not necessarily baby steps, but what are the small steps that you can take to build momentum so you're doing something. And our rule within Wealth Builders is something every month. So instead of trading time for money every month, you're doing something to build your wealth each month, your recurring income each month. What small step can you take this month that will start that process? And the starting point is always, where are you now?
You see,
and where do you want to be? So what would independence look like to you? Whatever that number is, now we've got the gap. Now let's backfill and start working month 1 on what do we do first, what do we do second, what do we do third, what do we do next?
You see, when I ask people, what would they do if they had the chance to do it all again? a lot of people said I would start that process much sooner, getting into that whole wealth creation side much sooner. You know, so much in this, for my favourite bit, I love this statement. If you don't find a way of making money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. I love that. Overall, my favourite part of this is your intensity. And you've repeated a number of points. I've never seen you as focused and communicating so directly about some points as clearly as you have done today. It's been my favourite part.
Glad you enjoyed it.
What's been your favourite bit?
Well, you know what? It's been good for me to see it from the perspective of somebody who wants to share. And you said a couple of times, I'm the listener here too. So if you're asking questions on behalf of the listener, then my job as somebody who's trying to be the guide is to distill those points you make and go, how do I make that clearer? Because whatever's happening, education system isn't changing anything. In microcosm, what I'm doing, helping a few thousand families, is not going to change the world. I need to get clearer. How do we get this clearer so more people are willing to move from at rest? And if you can help, and somebody else knows, there are communities out there. Somebody asked me to talk at their church. I thought, what a great idea, because they're a community of people and they care, don't they? And if you surround yourself with people who've got caring on their mind, not just making money, then that's going to be a great place to be. So I'm looking forward to doing more of this. Is my life's work now, by the way, James. You know, I'm not doing anything else now.
Well, you're gonna go until you're 100.
I'm not sure I'll go up to 100.
Maybe
the money will. The grandkids will.
Go beyond the 100.
What I want is somebody toasting me in 150 years' time and go, "Cheers, Kev."
Yeah,
that'll do me. Because all I can do is do my best.
Wonderful.
And impart that wisdom. And thank you for the opportunity to share what I know with people listening to you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.